So as you guys can see by the title, as we have below, the verdict is in, and everyone agrees that Silent Hill sucks. Well, at least everyone who matters, anyways. Because a lot of people have been glazing it, and then people have been shitting up. But you guys see there's a lot of thumbnails, all Silent Hill sucks, and then I'm surprised this is here. I guess they say it's bad, but I want to get into one of the core things that that they were saying. So number one, if you play on PC, it's not entirely a really good port. Yeah, that's number one that I can never stress about. This game definitely needed more time in the oven, you know. Also, sorry that the music didn't pop up, but yeah, the game did not pop in the oven long enough. And it has a lot of hittering or hitches and stutters. And I mentioned it before in my video, before my comparisons of early in-game Silent Hill versus 2 and my thoughts on it. But yeah, I was kind of suspecting it, but I wasn't sure. But there was definitely some optimization that needs to be done. And what's really weird is with a lot of these Unreal games, it's actually a PC first. Like, it's a PC game that is ported to console. But so to me, it's a really weird fuck up if somehow you're working in Unreal, yet the console version is better. That's 100% that you are failing as optimization. Mortal Kombat is probably the best modern example of this because there's hardware that's straight up just better than PlayStation 5 and Xbox, and somehow it's running worse, which is really fucking weird. Which, at the end of the day, like I said, I think a lot of it is just crunch, and they have to very focus specific on, like, there's inherent issues, right? It's on the base, but then they've kind of ironed them out when it comes to consoles, at least my thought. But that's the first thing, right? Obviously, objectively, that's something I'm gonna get objective as. Maybe nothing comparison, right? But as far as everything else that everyone's saying, right? It's Silent Hill remake. Yeah, a lot of people. Someone said that. So basically, in short, it's not a remake. Someone said it's a reimagining, and I'd have to say that it's probably the most reimagining I've ever seen. And the thing is what inherently makes a reimagining is the same thing with the Resident Evil 2 one, right? Story aside, like I would say, here's the best way to put it: the story is a remake, kind of in the same sense of like the Resident Evil 1, right? Resident Evil 1 is a prime example of a remake, and Final Fantasy 7 and Resident Evil 2 reimagining are prime examples of reimaginings, right? The story beats are not like the same. The story is inherently different, but it has the same characters, right? So the story's not exactly the same. Gameplay is entirely fucking different. One's turn-based, one is not. One is tank controls, one is not. Inherently 1000% a reimagining, right? Not hard to see that, right? But with this one, largely the gameplay is sort of the same. So the story, a lot of it is largely the same with minor changes. Not enough that I'd warrant it a remake. Or reimagining. That's why to me, Silent Hill's in a weird gray zone where it's a remake and a reimagining. And that's what I say. The story is largely a remake, right? Including the characters. Like, okay, yeah, remade, but for the most part, most of what's there is the same. For the most part, right? And as far as reimagining, yeah, the combat is already fairly different, especially the dodge, I think, changes a lot, but nothing's stopping you from playing the game as it was sort of intended. But I think the inherent, someone said that it's just a completely different experience, is the camera angles. And I think that's integral to what it is, especially when we talk about gaming as an art. And what you are experiencing, this is why I said definitely 100% reimagining. For you playing FF7 and RE2 OG compared to the reimaginings, they're completely different experiences. And that's why I would say for the reimagining for Silent Hill 2, yeah, no. Like, I think in a very superficial way, like if you don't know a lot, okay, yeah, they're kind of mostly the same experience, but in reality, no. Like even I can tell it much to me personally. Like the core horror experience is just they've changed too much where it's an entirely different experience. Whereas the remake for Resident Evil 1 retains a lot of it and enhances it. This one just completely changes it. And the camera angles alone too. Like I think for me, it's more so the artistic value that makes it a reimagining more so than the gameplay, right? Like, it's not even so much the stiffness or even the dodge, because I feel like to a degree you could still largely play. It's still the same, and it wasn't the biggest component, more so the puzzles and how you interact with the environment, and I think that's where it is. I think the inherent camera angle change is what truly makes the gameplay and core of Silent Hill a reimagining than anything else, honestly. So that's the first thing we need to realize is that I've already critiqued it enough in the last one in comparison, and I'm going to say it in this one, but more so I want to talk about how good is it to the original, which really, no, it just doesn't stack up. That's the always thing about reimaginings. They're always their own thing. And why I feel like it still just slacks as a reimagining. And again, I think it was this video that puts it really well. But look, example for this cutscene. And I had the same problem. Look at how clear the thing is. Like, you can tell this is the problem, right? That I think why it fails as a reimagining is they're too focused on what you can do and never stop to think is should you. And I think that's the biggest problem with many modern people when they re-envision stuff is they never stop and ask themselves, should we? Right? They don't realize that the limitations sometimes can be to the benefit of the art, not the detriment. And in this scene, like there's this sort of eeriness that comes from her being all smug. And oddly, the PS2's limitations work in its favor, right? ignoring what the models are and everything. Like I said, there are times where the original is, I've said it before, 100% superior, right? There's no argument there. And I don't know why that's there, but whatever. And another thing that he makes is he talks about this one, right? He makes a good example. I mean, I think they did a good job of listening, right? But I think a good example to show you that they don't truly understand. Oh my god, why did they do that? Yeah, he says it. Feel free to check it out. I agree. There's a really weird, uncanny thing. Like, see, look, they have to. Oh, let's show off. See, I can see the intention in this in the right. Oh, we have to show off the model and the graphics. Whereas this one, like, no, we're not here to show off graphics, this or that. That's again one of the biggest things. Is I think the remake trailer alone showed up the intentions. Is that and everyone caught on. Like that's what I'm saying. Like I didn't get it until I started playing the second one. I was like, oh my god, I fucking get it. The intentions of developers is like, oh my god, how can we make this shinier? How can we make this cooler? Oh, let's show the action scene. Like that's not the point of Silent Hill. Look at this weird feeling in Silent Hill, this one, and it's prevalent throughout. It's almost as if someone's watching you. And they did a good example of like Dutch angles and all this other stuff. Like they did the research to know, okay, what are things we can do. Whereas the thing about this is these people, like this is my personal opinion, right? When it comes to old developers, they did a lot more research and effort and how to get a feeling they were going for. Whereas now they're simply focused, oh, let's try to get this graphics and all this. Oh, what's the latest thing, right? Or what they don't pay attention to like good example, like I said, old ones in the good video Electric Underground said is that modern developers only played modern games. They never played old school titles or arcade titles. And that's why I think a lot of these other people, like Konami included in Capcom, is why they understand the core of what makes a game different. Whereas too many modern stuff try to make it like a movie. The irony is they fail to understand what made those movies good on their merits, which is funny. Whereas this one, I guarantee you probably they understand it. They know how to code, like, either Galaga or some bullshit, understand what makes a game fun, and then understand, okay, let's try not to go in that direction because this is the antithesis of fun. Whereas the other one on the right is like, oh, let's try to make this, another open world third portion of some bullshit, right? And on top of that, they know how to use cameras because they probably watch, oh, here's a whole school horror movie, right? And then, oh, I remember this scene, and then they analyze and break down, okay, why does this scene work, and then they start to use with it. Whereas now these people, they probably have never seen a classic horror film in their life, so they're just gonna go off of the modern garbage that comes out, and that's something I want to talk about, like where cinematics, absolutely, you're just not getting the same experience, 100%. There is an uncanny curiosity. By the way, like this is good. I think this shot is fine. I think it looks actually perfect, and even the questionable thing. But it's really weird how he's super clear. Like I said, it's my problem. These things can be fixed. But he also talks about how they keep cutting to different angles while not understanding. You know what I'm saying? And he even talks about too. Yeah, the reimaginings just don't compare to the original. I think that's something I can't nail enough. Right? They just don't. And there's too many examples as to why that is. And yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, see, I say I don't know, but no, I do know. And that's the real thing I'm trying to get at, is that at the end of the day, it it's just not going to be better than the second one. Like I said, it's very clear that developers, like, here's the thing, the fact that developers had to fix a mistake. I mean, it's good that developers, like, I'll say this much, I'll give them credit for what it's due. They had clearly a monumental task, and they did the best they could what they were given and what they do know, right? It's not like they butchered it like goddamn 343 did with Halo 5. Look, I'm not saying they're 343. If anything, I've been giving shit to the studios for a single thing. I just clearly understand that they're not probably either the biggest fans or truly understand the social media. I said it before in the last one. I didn't understand why being a certain character being in Silent Hill Homecoming was a bad idea, because one of the main things is the enemies are supposed to be a reflection of some of your inner demons, right? See? And again, maybe they only know that because of how bad Homecoming was. How much money you want to bet that these developers, had they made their own Silent Hill, they would have made the same exact mistake, you know? And that's really what it is. And when it comes to reimaginings, if you want a faithful thing, is you genuinely either need the original creator, or right now, a mega big fan of the series. Best example we can have that is arguably whether the reboot or reimagining, or who knows, it's a continuation, and that's the best part. The fact that it could be either has to be the Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal games. Because if you look at director, he actually, I heard him upstage, and when he said what Doom basically was, from like Doom and the Doom, I as a fan, I'm like, oh my god, he gets it. When you have someone like that at the helm, you know the game's going to be fine. And he did an absolutely amazing job of reimagining what Doom is for the modern audiences, 100%. And it's the only game I can genuinely think of, besides the Resident Evil 1 remake, in all of gaming history. I'm gonna be maybe there's other examples, but maybe they might be too small and too niche to really know. But I can genuinely sit here and be like, yeah, no, they captured the essence of what the game was. And even then, there is still a reason to go back and play the original Doom. I feel like Resident Evil 1, not as much. There's still something to it. Don't get me wrong. There's a nice novelty. Even to me, I replayed it. I was like, okay, there's some, reimagining and everything. But, like, you feel like definitely like the remake is what the developers wanted to make, right? and Doom Eternal is something that they would like to make, right? Whereas with the Silent Hill reimagining, no, it doesn't feel like something the original developers would have made, in my opinion. In some aspects, absolutely, sure. Again, if they could have, like, I think the clear models and this, but the direction and everything, absolutely not. So that's enough about the past half. I think it's just not a comparison. But with that being said, does that make Silent Hill 2 reimagining a bad game? Same how I said it for every other reimagining is for Final Fantasy 7. I think that's just trash. No, I think it's fine. I think as a game on its own, it holds up fine. I think it's a definitely a fine survival horror experience. It's not like a horror experience. I think it's definitely lacking though. I think to me, especially when you compare them, it's very evident how much better it could be. Like if it released, I think the reviews would be more warrant. But because it's a reimagining, that's why we bath on it so much. But standing on its own, I mean, because of the good influence it has, it's not entirely bad. Like I said, the story itself is still sound. Everything's graphics, this and new. But it definitely could be better. That's the best way to put it. If it wasn't put on a pedestal and paid off, people could all probably say, "Oh, there are certain things that could be this, like the enemies." Like, yeah, I think some of the enemy hits, like in the original, it definitely feels bad when you're in combat. It just doesn't feel good, and that's what you're supposed to feel. Where Silent Hill, in my opinion, if we were truly looked in the modern critique without the old one, they would say it kind of like, okay, it's not unique, you new creativity. It's a nice new experience, but it feels kind of too similar, and it kind of feels lacking. Like, why? Like, okay, there, I guarantee people wouldn't bitch about the dodging as much, but they would also feel like, I feel like the game would be better without it. I guarantee you, people would say that. Same with like some of the sounds, like, oh, they're great, like, okay, they're good and everything, but I like you don't feel like that feeling, and they would compare it to other horror games that have much better sound design, because I think the sound design is, and not in a lot of, in some ways and in some others, right? But I think the enemy design, like I said, when those little dudes crawl around, like, oh my god, I hate that sound with a fucking passion. Like Silent Hill, I might be able to put it like this: the Silent Hill reimagining doesn't feel like a Silent Hill game, especially in the audio and atmosphere department. I think the atmosphere is fine, but it's not at the level of Silent Hill. It's especially, like I said, sound. I mean, yeah, no, sound is super important, and there's something like that I've always gotten when I first played Silent Hill is a very uncanny, uncomfortable feeling. And I don't get that from the reimagining. Like, I really, really don't. It just feels like kind of a run of the mill horror game, but definitely above average for sure. And that's where I think I can. I mean, I don't want to drag on too long, but these are some of the critique, and then we can probably go further in depth. We probably might talk about this in the Vibecast. But a lot of you guys in the comments, I know for sure, I see some of you guys definitely are gonna agree with my point. And the thing is like, it's not to invalidate. Like, if you enjoy it, it is fine, and especially I think it's a very accessible way. But there's also Silent Hill HD collection, which, by the way, I'm playing, and it's fixed on Xbox 360. And if I'm being honest, I would argue the HD collection is a much better experience than the reimagining if you want to get the core of what it is. But part of the reason we harp on it so much is because we're kind of sick and tired of people, like, basically in a sense they're lying. Oh, faithful reinterpret, like, not really. It's not as faithful as it really is. Like, just be honest. It's just, like, be like the Silent Hill, or my bad, Resident Evil 2 directors. They straight up went in and said, "Oh, this is a reimagining, so we're sorry to disappoint." Like, that I respect. That's one of the reasons why I never give so much shit. But at the end of the day, it's because I review it this as a lens, as a critique of someone of art and everything, right? And I want everything to have a fair judgment. But yeah, Silent Hill, I think as a game stands alone, I think it's fine. But it's definitely not $70. At the end of the day, too, like, no, you're just coping if you're sitting here trying to, like, I've said it once and I've said it again, $70 is way too much for a game. And by the way, it's not about the value of the game or how much, it's never about that. It's about how much money they can squeeze out of you. And at the end of the day, it's just straight up fucking greed. Konami did not reimagine this game out of the goodness of their heart, or because they give a shit about gaming. They did it because they knew it'll get money. But if we're being honest, it's not making a lot of money back. Because the bigger issue, see, something I've avoided, is the whole woke. The end, people are like, yeah. The thing is, it's so obvious. It's like, why even talk about it? Like, who gives a? Some people, I respect it if you don't buy because of that. Because yeah, don't censor shit. Don't change shit that no one asked you to. I 100% agree with that statement. That alone, you shouldn't even buy this game, right? But if we ignore that, and let's say you didn't even know, you wouldn't be able to tell. You'd be no lesser the fool, in my opinion, right? And if I'm being honest, out of all the woke, like, this is probably the most who gives a shit thing, right? Like, to me, like, I don't like they changed what's her face's. I think it does look ugly, but outside of that, I wouldn't really. But I just be like, oh man, this bitch ugly, and like, it doesn't. In my opinion, it doesn't affect the core of the game all that fucking much. But it's very clear that, oh, yo, you're clearly doing some stupid shit when no one asked you for this kind of shit. Absolutely. I mean, just look at the statement that dumbass said about, oh, I wish gamers said, who's gonna buy your game, dumbass? Like, I guarantee you a lot of people, like at least a third, ain't buying this game because of that woke bullshit, and another third is buying $70 is too much, like my left nut. The other third are probably, again, because it's not like, they're like, oh, it's not faithful. Again, those are the big three people. And no, you're losing out. I mean, look, the Dead Space remake did not sell as much as it, and I guarantee you the Silent Hill 2 one is going to be kind of the same. Only because I know for sure there's going to be a lot of normies that love their kind of horror games, right? And that's the thing, and I think the other reason too is because we've been wanting a psychological horror game for a really long time. Because all we have is like regular horror, and I'll be honest, 90% of them actually suck. Not counting indies. Indies have been kicking it. But we haven't had a real psychological survival horror game in a good amount. Heck, barely any survival horror games outside of Daymare, if I can think about it. You know, it's a very slept on area, and they need to. And the thing is too, why there are is because a lot of developers don't know how to make them. And then it's very clear that they kind of knew. But I mean, it's always good to listen to fans. But again, like I said, with Dude and Doom, I don't think I recall. I mean, there are times, okay, they didn't so much tell them what to change, but they're like, oh, this is really good. They're giving the thumbs up approval. But with the Silent Hill team, it's like, dude, they were literally telling you basically what you should do. Like, but again, props to where it's due. They listened, and I respect that. So again, huge shout outs to the dev team for doing what they could, given the task, right? And outside of that graphic, I mean, minus a couple weird things with the characters looking like they're covered in plastic and the blood, I think they clearly did a fine job. Clearly, they did good work. I mean, but for sure, definitely lacking when it comes to optimization. But of course, as they say, oh, we're just gonna patch it later, right? You know, by the way, go check. Oh, it's Alex. He talks about the terrible optimization, right? Oh gosh, he's a homie. He hates Unreal a lot, and I think as someone who uses it, the problem is just developers are too lazy and don't want to be bothered to. Well, I mean to some degree, but it's definitely they don't fully optimize in the game. It self incentivizes doing something easier and not fully actually optimize. And again, even they talk about it. Yeah, even on PS5, it doesn't hold a steady 60. So, but yeah, I'm dragging on too long. But that's the overall consensus on Silent Hill as it stands currently. Like I said, I think it's a fine game. I would say for 35 to 25 bucks, Silent Hill is definitely worth it. You know, I wouldn't shame you for checking out, but do know you are definitely missing a core of the experience. Like I think I would argue you're getting half of the experience, especially because of the story. Gameplay wise, outside of maybe some enemy or beats, this and that, no, completely different experience. And I think anyone who plays, I dare you, play the new one, then play the OG if you can, and you're gonna be like, oh my god, like this is better than the original. Like, oh, this is a completely different feeling, you know. And there's definitely some jank, like for sure. But that's kind of it. Maximilian said it best. Like the jank was part of the charm, you know. Definitely. But with that being said, that's all my thoughts on the Silent Hill, and everybody has said. Like I said, I think it's fine. Probably like 5.5 out of 10 kind of thing. 6 at max, but definitely not for no $70. I said it once, I said it again. Any whatever, I don't care what it is, should not be more than $35, bro. Because most of the blueprints are there. You're not doing again, and I actually am developing it like having like something to you know like it makes it so much easier. I can't stress this enough, man. Holy shit. I'm so glad I became a developer. It gives me more leeway, or you know, not even leeway. It's beyond leeway at this point to fairly critique something, honestly. Because I've been at this for almost a year now, and I've learned so much in the past year. But with that being said, yeah, I just ended off on this one, and thank you guys for on this Silent Hill menagerie journey we've been on. Feel free to check out my uploads on the channel you have right here. I'll show you. Sorry from dragging up a bit. We have a lot of Silent Hill content, and right now I'm slowly trying to get the parts of me playing Silent Hill 1, then I'm going to do Silent Hill Part 2, but Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is literally out right now, so I've been playing that. Also, go check out this amazing indie title. But yeah, no, and by the way, be on the lookout. I heard there's some indie developer, definitely not me, who is working on having a psychological horror segment in said a game. But that'll probably be 2 years off from now, you know. I might not be the biggest Silent Hill fan, but at least I understand what the core of it is. But yeah, that's all I got for today. And feel free to leave a comment, you know. And of course, as you guys already know, definitely treat those morons who stand Silent Hill and aren't realizing they're getting cucked by Konami. I'm like, oh, $70. Oh, this game is great. I don't know why you say this. Like, okay, one dude who bought this game who has daddy's money, while the rest of us actually work our asses off and have bills to pay like responsible people. Jackasses. Imagine taking something so serious that's something for entertainment, bro. See, that's where I'm at. Like, at the end, you don't see me getting mad, right, guys? Like, dude, it ain't that big of a deal. There are actual real problems. All I gotta say is there's people currently having wars and all this other shit, but no, my biggest problem is people said my game is bad. Ooh, fucking jackasses.